Without deeply understanding what this video is about, you will never be successful in e-commerce. You will have literally no idea what's actually going on. This video is not about how to get rich quick with e-commerce. Anyone who promises you this sort of results is just lying to you. While it is technically possible, your product would have to be exceptional, or you would have to have a pre-existing customer base or be a celebrity. The real e-commerce growth is far less sexy than that. This video will be a bit down in the weeds. I'll describe key metrics that you need to know and control. To be successful in e-commerce, you will need to have a great understanding of all of these concepts, so watch until the end. If you don't want to spend 10 minutes learning about it, you might as well just give up now. In a nutshell, it's all about driving traffic to your site and making sure the machine is efficient enough to convert visitors into paid customers. Making the site sticky is your first course of action. Getting the customers to actually spend money, and as much as possible, is your next goal. Even if your customers don't buy on their first visit, you might want to capture their contact details so you can remind them about your website later on. If you fail to do so, you will never scale meaningfully. All of these business metrics, or KPIs, key performance indicators, work together in harmony to increase the conversion rate and customer lifetime value. Your customer's lifetime value, however, will define and limit your website's potential to scale. Everything we talk about here today directly translates into ROAS, that stands for return on ad spend, which in turn is the only growth lever that has an exponential potential. Only if you understand the interplay between all of these moving parts, you can be successful. If you're on Shopify, getting some of these metrics will be very easy, as they'll be displayed to you by default in the analytics section. For other e-commerce platforms, you will have to do some digging around, possibly pulling reports or use plugins. I don't know, just do yourself a favor and use Shopify. Your first set of metrics will be clustered around customers' behavior on your site. It's the number of sessions, page views, and bounce rate. Sessions is quite obvious, it's the number of times someone has actually opened your site. The bounce rate is how many people look at the first page and quickly close the website immediately. Bounce rates will vary wildly based on the traffic source and the page type. Typically, home pages will have smaller bounce rates than product pages, and category pages will be right there in between. While you can't directly control bounce rates, you can keep an eye on them and use this metric to inform the changes you make on the website. If the bounce rate increases, you have done something wrong. If it decreases, you've done something right. Remember that after you introduce paid traffic, you're actually paying for people that bounce too. You want to make sure to avoid wasted ad spend by at least trying to capture visitors' email address. Email capture is a separate metric in its own right, but it's a crucial one. If you manage to capture someone's email address, they don't have to be lost to you forever. You can still reach out to them and convince them to come back at a later date and complete the purchase, or even tell you why they have not decided to buy. Once your bounce rate is under control, the next thing to look at is page views divided by sessions, otherwise known as average session duration. This number should be at least 2 page views per session, and average session duration should really last longer than 30 seconds on average. If you can't hit any of these values, you're in trouble. If that's the case, you might have to go back to your website's positioning statements and trust and credibility builders, or maybe even rethink your product selection. The second cluster of metrics is around the conversion rate. Conversion rate is simply a percentage of website visitors that have placed an order. You can break conversion rate down into 3 stages: the add to basket rate, basket to checkout, and checkout to order rate. Increasing any of these rates will have a direct impact on your overall conversion rate on your website. A good add to basket rate is somewhere between 10 and 20%. A decent basket to checkout rate is about 50%. A good checkout to order rate is about 80%. So adding all of those together, this can result in a conversion rate somewhere between 2 and 11%. There are no wrong answers here. If your website's already well advertised elsewhere, like in a catalog, television, or has some other offline traffic sources, the conversion rate will seem unnaturally high. In this scenario, the website serves as an order taker and less so as a sales mechanism. This can also happen if you're an exclusive seller of a particular brand. People who already know about the brand will come to you, and once they do, they'll have the buying intention in mind. This is why brand building and leveraging outside unfair advantages makes such a big difference. If you're a new, up-and-coming brand in a competitive niche, the odds really are stacked against you. It doesn't mean it's impossible to be successful, but it will take an extended period of time and a lot of hard work. This is where working with someone more experienced is worth its weight in gold, as they can potentially shortcut months of your effort and point you to the next logical step to unblock the growth you're looking for. This is why I've started my e-commerce clinic coaching program. Feel free to arrange a free call with me to see if I can help you. The link is in the description below. Coming back to the metrics, the first and second set are very theoretical and don't actually mean much in terms of commercial success. You can have a very good conversion rate on a cheap product with small margins and fail quickly. The average income per session would still be very low and your cost per click might still be too high. Or you can be selling very expensive things like cars, jewelry, watches with really high selling prices and high average order value. In this case, the conversion rate is expected to be low, but the overall revenue per session can still be really high. In that case, you might have justified a really high cost per click in your paid ads. The third set of metrics is revolving around the commercial value. The most stubborn indicator is the average order value itself. It's typically the most difficult one to move, but moving it can increase your growth potential dramatically. At a later stage, we might want to experiment with things like upsells, cross-sells, downsells, but to begin with, it's worth making sure that your website navigation is intuitive enough and people can easily find the complementary products. If you can increase the average items per order, this will affect the average order value dramatically. There's a balance to be had between increasing the conversion rate and items per order. You might be better off actually removing quick checkout buttons and instead route everyone through the basket page. On the basket page, you can display an upsell widget showing frequently bought together, offer volume discounts, and show other related items to what's already in the basket. A fourth set of metrics revolve around returning customer behavior. It's the returning customer rate and customer lifetime value. Customer lifetime value can be presented as a total revenue or total gross profit averaged out over a given period, like a year. What typically happens is returning customers will tend to spend more, and this will in turn work to increase your average order value. That is exactly why you should put customer satisfaction first and resolve any customer support queries in a timely manner, and with the customer's best interest in mind. There's no point arguing with a customer about return postage, for example. A postage can be £3, but if you were to lose the customer altogether, you could lose out on £30 on the gross profit. Once you're in business for some time, you can calculate these metrics with a high level of precision. You should do everything you can to increase them, but first of all, you have to understand where you're starting from. The baseline is really important. Looking at the average order value and customer lifetime value can be very confusing. You might want to use that in combination with a gross margin calculator to make sure you have an accurate idea of your customer's lifetime gross profit. What is the money they're worth to you? I prepared a margin calculator spreadsheet for that purpose that takes into account your tax structure as well. You can download this for free by clicking a link in the description below. If all of that sounded confusing, you'd be right. The lawmakers don't do anything to help us and introduce additional privacy laws and making us jump through the hoops like all these nonsensical cookie banners on every website. These cookie banners annoy the customers and put them off. They also ruin your metrics. My number of sessions in Shopify has dropped by 2/3 since introducing a cookie banner. However, if I was to remove the cookie banner, Google Ads would kick me out and block my account. But you, as a startup, might still get away without a cookie banner for some time. This would allow you to gather more reliable metrics. Anyway, to wrap things up. So once you finally understand where you are in terms of your customer lifetime value and average profit per order, you can make informed decisions on how much you want to spend to acquire customers. Let's say your average profit per order is £10 and your average customer lifetime value is £20 for 12 months. If your cost per conversion is lower than £10, it means you will make profit even on the first order. If you aim for between £10 and £20, you will lose money initially, but you should break even within the first year. Finally, if you spend more than £20 to acquire a customer, that's not a good business and you might go bankrupt really quickly. Interestingly enough, this is only half of the story. The online advertising works on a cost per click basis. That's why all these metrics are important, so we can arrive from a cost per click to a cost per acquisition or cost per conversion. Google Ads actually makes all those calculations for you once you log into the control panel, but I wouldn't necessarily trust all the figures you see in them. And it's crucial that you keep your own records updated every day. You want to keep track of the number of new customers, how much they spent, and how much you spent on advertising. It will take quite some time to get used to all of these numbers, but you'll be flying blind without them. This is like a speedometer in your car. If you go too fast, you'll crash and burn, but if you go too slow, you'll never get anywhere. I realize it's a lot of information, but I paid £6,000 to learn the system and spent 3 years practicing it. That's why I've started my e-commerce clinic coaching program. Feel free to arrange a call with me to see if I can help you. The link is in the description below. In the next video, we'll talk about split testing and how you can use it to measure the effect of changes you're making on the website. I'll share my experience and give you my platform recommendations. See you next time.